Hello everyone, this is Matt from Y000 Review, and today we're going to replace the front screen on the iPhone 14 Plus. However, this video can be used for the iPhone 14, which is almost exactly the same, just with the Plus obviously being bigger. So the tools you're going to need are going to be a Y000 bit, a P2 driver, a razor blade, a pick, and some heat. And the first thing that you're going to do is remove the bottom two screws with that P2 driver. And then we're going to add some heat around the frame, maybe about 10 to 15 seconds should be enough. Just enough to kind of loosen up the adhesive, but also make sure you don't add too much heat if you're trying to preserve the screen that's on the phone. If you add too much heat on this, you're generally not going to mess up the phone. You just might mess up the OLED if you're trying to preserve that. But in this case, I am not, because the screen does not power on. But what we're going to do is we're going to grab a razor blade. I started with the bottom because I didn't care about the screen. I recommend starting on the right side, as you can see on my iPhone 14 fixing video. But either way, with that razor blade, we're going to lift up the screen, making sure to lift up the frame, not the actual screen itself, and get a plastic pick in there to cut through the adhesive. Once you cut through that adhesive, it should be fairly easy to cut through the adhesive on the left side, and possibly the adhesive on the right side. If it does get difficult, add some more heat, but in this situation, it was not too difficult, and I was actually able to cut through the adhesive pretty well, going all the way to the top and cutting over to the side. This was very easy to do because for some reason I got the clamps out really easy, but also because of liquid damage. Yes, an iPhone 14 Plus with liquid damage. Shocking. But once the screen is removed, we're going to grab the Y000 bit. We're going to remove the screw for the screen and the screw for the top cable. And we're going to grab a plastic pick to remove the cable cover for the screen and the cable cover for the top flex cable. Then with that pick, we're going to carefully lift up both of those connectors, and the screen should come off fairly easily. Next, what I'm going to do is put on another screen to test to make sure this phone works. And it actually does, even without that top cable. And it looks like the touchscreen is working fine. This is an LCD screen, so that's why I wanted to do some further testing to, one, make sure the phone works, but also make sure that the screen works, because I highly am against LCD screens, but at the time of the repair, there was no reasonable OLED screens to put on this phone. Next, I'm going to turn off the phone and unplug the screen, because I do have to move over that top cable. So with that Y000 bit, we're going to remove these two screws and lift up this little metal panel. It does hook in on the right side, so remember that. Then what we're going to do is grab a heat gun, and we're going to heat up this little cable right here just for a couple seconds, and we're going to carefully grab a plastic pick and go under in this specific section right here. I did not add enough heat, that's why this is coming off like this, but it is fairly easy if you add a decent amount of heat. And we're going to carefully remove this cable up until those connectors on the top. So don't rip this off just yet, just leave it loose like this. Then what I recommend is grabbing the pick and loosening up this light bar right here. I start with that one, and then I go over to the other ones, which generally you can kind of lift and wiggle out like this, or you can use a pick if you're afraid, and also careful. This little microphone filter should be moved over. It doesn't entirely need to. I don't see any differences, but you can move it over like I did. Next, what we're going to do is just set this into the new screen. It's pretty easy. You don't really need adhesive because we do have this little metal panel that's going to hold it in place. So hook it in on the right side, set it down like this, and put those two Y000 screws back in. The rest of the cable should still have its adhesive, so it should just stick on the screen fairly easily. Then we're going to fold the screen over like this onto the phone and plug in that little cable and hook in that little metal piece. So you want the screw area facing up, and then set that down. Then you're going to grab that Y000 screw and put it in. Then fold the screen over like this, plug in the screen cable, and fold that little metal piece down the opposite of what we did on the top. Then put that Y000 screw back in, and you're ready to put the phone back together. As you can see, I did not replace the adhesive, which is very difficult to do on 12 series or newer, and this phone's already had liquid damage, and this has an LCD screen, so it's not entirely needed. But if you do feel good about that, make sure to remove the adhesive and put new adhesive on before we put the screen back on. The next thing we want to do is make sure the screen is working, and it looks like it is. So I'm going to push down, making sure everything clamps in. This is an LCD screen, so it might stick out a little bit, but if you get an OLED screen, it should fit fairly flush, unless it's a really bad OLED screen. Then we can grab the P2 driver and those bottom two screws, put them back into the phone, and then you're done. Hopefully this video helped you out. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments section, and as always, thanks for watching.